All right, everybody, and welcome to another episode of The Rebel Show. I hope everybody had a good Thanksgiving. I haven't done a show since Thanksgiving. I took some time off that weekend, or last weekend, to the December 10th weekend, because I did a Broadway-style production at where I work, Charis Bible College, and my hours were really funky, so I didn't want to spend I didn't have time really to do a show. I could have done one live backstage, a friend told me, but it just wasn't for me, Facebook Live it instead of recorded at home. But I hope everyone's doing well. It's been a fun week. The production went well. I had a lot of fun, met some new people, and that's one thing that's cool about where I work is it's a school, so there's new students coming in all the time. And I get to meet new people all the time, and I get to work with new people, and that's kind of a cool experience, especially as someone that I like conversation, I like meeting new people, and I'm in a place where it's constant, so I get a lot of good conversation, and I meet some really cool people who really have a good heart for God, and that's one thing I love about where I work at Charis is people come there because they love the message. They want to know the grace and love of God. So they come there to learn more about it. And man, what a great thing. So this episode, I want to talk a little bit about the Second Amendment. And coming up, the House of Representatives passed a bill called H.R. 38. It's a bill that will allow people to carry a concealed weapon across state lines. So now you can only carry it in the state in which you got the permit. So if you bought the permit in Colorado, you could only use it in Colorado. But now they're passing a bill that would allow it to work like a driver's license. So if you bought it in Colorado, doesn't matter where you got the permit, you could go across state lines with it like a driver's license. You don't have to get a driver's license in every state. You just use yours, and they honor that. So that would be a really good thing, to be able to protect yourself, your possessions, and your family anywhere you go, anytime, without having to worry about some of that stuff. And I think this is something that's good, and it's only passed the House. Hopefully it gets to the Senate and passes, because this is a good thing that could be getting us back to our original founding ideas. The Second Amendment, a well-regulated militia, being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. We just have to recognize that it's talking about a well-regulated militia does not necessarily mean military. It's talking more about, back in those days, they had settlers in colonies and small towns, and anybody who was like over the age of 16, 17 or so and had a rifle was considered, hey, you're part of the militia. If something comes up, if we get attacked, if a bear attacks, or even or like bandits or something, we're banding together and we're protecting this town. That's what a militia is. It's necessary to the security of a free state. So we're a free people, and we have the right to secure ourselves and protect ourselves. That's a right that we have, and I think even government can't give us that right. I think God gives us the right to protect ourselves. And we have the right of the people to keep and bear arms. It shall not be infringed. Governments may try to take this away from us, and governments have taken it away from other nations. But that does not mean that's not good at all, because now you're in a position where you can't protect yourself, and I think that's something we should be proud of, is that we're going back to these founding ideas. The founders wanted people to be armed. They wanted people to be able to protect the town and protect themselves. I mean, you go out into the woods, there could be a bear that comes up, There's been a lot of talk about that word militia, it's definitely talking about the military. But, if you look it up, one of the definitions for militia is generally an army or some other fighting organization of non-professional soldiers, citizens of a nation, or subjects of a state, who can be called upon for military service during a time of need, as opposed to a professional force. So, like, I could be a militia, and my neighbor and the guy across the street could band together and say, hey, we're a militia. We're going to protect our street, our neighborhood. Now, you have police nowadays. you really don't do that much, but you still should consider protecting your home and your property. I would recommend everybody have a weapon and be trained with it. You don't necessarily have to go purchase training. There's all kinds of videos and stuff you can watch, but I would recommend it for everybody. The founders had some sayings on these things. So one of them would be, to preserve liberty, it is essential that the whole body of the people always possess arms and be taught alike, especially when young, how to use them. That's Richard Henry Lee, 1788. Even when young, so even children should be taught about weapons. And I think that's important. From a young age, teach them about weapons. You have them learn on a BB gun, have them learn on a 22. Teach them early. Teach them gun safety. It's huge, because if your kid is ever in an event where there's a gun and some kids are playing with it or something, they're going to know how to handle it and what to do. I know a young man around 11 or 12, I think, and he and his dad go hunting all the time. He's young, and you wouldn't expect him to be a good hunter, but I've seen the pictures of some of the things he's shot, and it's pretty impressive. Like, his dad has taught him well and took him out, and he is gun safe. He's probably got more gun sense than most people because his father took the time to teach him, and that's an important thing. That's a huge thing about our society anymore, is we can blame government for things, but really it's parents. It's the family that teaches children how to do things. It's the family that raises up children. And when that doesn't happen and you depend on schools or governments to teach foundational just principles, they're going to fail. Parents teach their kids. I think that's huge. Another quote. The Constitution of most states assert that all power is inherent in the people. Amen. And that it is their right and duty to be at all times armed. That's Thomas Jefferson in a letter to the Justice John Cartwright. And always be armed. So these people went to Congress armed, it sounds like. That's pretty interesting, You don't see that anymore. I would bet if I went to Congress, which I've never been, one day I'd like to, and look at these buildings, I bet they're gun-free zones. I just bet it is. Another quote. I ask, sir, what is the militia? It is the whole people. To disarm the people is the best and most effectual way to enslave them. George Mason. He co-authored the Second Amendment. To disarm the people is the best, most effectual way to enslave them, because if you can't defend yourself, a government could come, a tyrant can come, and what can you do to defend yourself? You can throw rocks all you want, but if they can shoot you, they can pressure you, you can't defend yourself. An armed man is a citizen. A disarmed man is a subject. It's true. Here's another interesting quote. This year will go down in history. For the first time, a civilized nation has full gun registration. Our streets will be safer, our police more efficient, and the world will follow our lead into the future. Adolf Hitler. Wow. Sounds like some of the things I've heard lately. Get rid of guns. For safety. The safety of everyone. It's not true, We need to be in charge of our personal safety. We have cops and everything, and they do a great job. But man, if we could go back to days where, if you lived on a street and everybody in that street was armed and was willing to look out for each other and protect each other and kept an eye out and paid attention, that street would never have any robberies. There would never anything happen there, because the people that would come would know that they're about to lose. How's that? A couple scriptures in the Bible talking about being armed. In John chapter 18, this is when Jesus is about to get arrested. And so Peter is not having it. He's not happy about this. And it says, then Simon Peter, having a sword, this is John 18, 10 and 11. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant's ear and cut it off. And Jesus said, Peter, put the sword into your sheath. He said, put up thy sword into the sheath. Put up thy sword. So it was Peter's sword. So Jesus didn't go, whoa, you got a sword. Or why do you have a sword? He said, Peter, put your sword away. It's not time for you to fight. This is part of the plan. I have to do this. And so Peter had a sword. Peter was armed. So I would take that as, there's other scriptures too that talk about similar things, that the disciples were armed. These people were armed. You know, if we look at 1 Samuel 25:13, it says, and David said to his men, this is when David was leading the army, every man strap on his sword, and every man strapped on his own sword. And David strapped on his sword. Wow. Every man strap on his own sword. Psalm 44:1, David wrote, blessed be the Lord, my rock, who trains my hands for war and my fingers for battle. Wow. We see that some biblical leaders were armed. Do we need to be? Thank you very much.